Welcome back, fellas, and in this video I wanted to talk about matchups that would have been completely one-sided. Fights that were actually being discussed for a while. How's that for an intro? So let's not waste any time. The man of the hour, Sean O'Malley, fighting this weekend. He's had a pretty quick rise and he's had a big jump up in competition when he faced Peter Yan. But if you remember well, I think it was after his Paiva win or his Pedro Munoz win. They were actually talking about him fighting Cody Garbrandt. They even faced off on a stage at a press conference, and everybody was hyping that shit up like it was the next logical matchup for Sean O'Malley. But do I have to tell you how disastrous that would have been? We might have witnessed the first death in UFC history. This is not a case of infinite force versus a movable object. This is a case of infinite force versus a feather. And I gotta say that Cody seemed a little bit too happy about this fight considering what would have happened to him. He was really entertaining it and he was actually looking for that fight, which is strange for me because what possible path to victory does he see in himself against Sean O'Malley? Wrestling? I don't think so. Aljamain had trouble trying to take Sean O'Malley down, and nobody really managed to do it except Peter Yan, and even then, Sean did a pretty good job to get up. The footwork, Sean O'Malley has better footwork than Cody. The power, I mean, arguably, I wouldn't say equal, but both have heavy hands, and Cody could definitely catch Sean, but I'd still put my money on Sean for that. What path to victory does Cody have? I wouldn't even be surprised if Sean O'Malley did him worse than what Garbrandt did to Cruz, even though that fight was overrated and Cody did not dominate Cruz. But still, you know the highlights, like bopping his head, making him miss, tripping him on the floor, everything. I think Sean O'Malley could do Cody worse than what Cody did Cruz. But realistically, this fight, it doesn't last a round. In the first round, Sean O'Malley is going to catch him, and the power of Sean O'Malley does not mix great with Cody Garbrandt's chin. It's just a bad matchup. Now for this next fight, I can't believe people used to hype that shit. I cannot believe it. Israel Adesanya versus Jon Jones. Israel Adesanya versus Jon Jones. Do I have to say it again? Do I have to remind you that this was an actual fight that was being talked about? And that, what did Izzy say? Izzy at one point even said that when he thought about, when he went up, that's when Jones never came back to the division. What is he talking about? Do you know how this fight would have went? Do you know how this fight would have went? I think not only because of the wrestling. People always talk about how Jones would have just taken him down and did his thing against Izzy. But now I think even in the stand-up, Jones could have beat Izzy. Maybe not as flashy and knock him out or whatever, but Jones could definitely hang in there with Izzy. Izzy is not the best striker. He's overrated as fuck. Sean Strickland outstruck him. Dricus du Plessis outstruck him. Alex Pereira, it was pretty equal, but still, what are we talking about here? What does Izzy have for Jon? And even more so in the wrestling. I make this fight like a 60-40 to Jon without the wrestling. And even after moving up and losing to Jan Blachowicz, being outstruck by Jan Blachowicz, by the way, and then being controlled on the ground, he still was talking about it. He still was talking about how on the, I think it was Impulsive podcast, Izzy was talking about how this fight hasn't happened yet. But it will, and trust, when I get my hands on him, trust. Stop it, get some help. But yeah, this fight was always stupid. Izzy couldn't do a thing to Jon Jones. What is he gonna do, wrestle with him? No. Strike with him? I don't think so. Jon Jones is bigger, longer, smarter, craftier. So yeah, the fact that this fight was even being talked about just because Izzy had some hype is a joke. Marty. Can you guess which fight I'm going to talk about? And no, it's not the Canelo one, because that was the big story of the town when Marty started calling out Canelo. But no, I'm actually going to talk about him calling out Jan Blachowicz. Yes, you heard me. Calling out the light heavyweight champ as a welterweight. And some people gave some credibility to that. They actually started facing off in the hallways after press conferences, and they made a whole thing of that. It was actually being talked about, and people were arguing about it in the comments on Instagram and Twitter. The whole face-off things, people saying, wait, Usman actually looks big enough. Usman could actually make light heavyweight. What? Why do you people want my favorite fighters to die? Volkanovski talking about he could beat Bilal. Do you want to die? What is the problem? Weight classes are here for a reason. And not only is this fight dumb, Jan Blachowicz, even pound for pound, is a bad matchup for Kamaru Usman. Like an old friend would say, Kamaru cobblestone wobblestone knees couldn't do a thing against Jan Blachowicz and his leg kicks. The thing that was the downfall of Jan Blachowicz and his championship run was actually submission by Glover Teixeira. And Kamaru Usman is the champion with the least, I mean, at the time, he didn't have any submission threat. Like, you didn't have to fear for your life when you were on the ground with Kamaru Usman. He was control you, probably like hold you there for the round, and you're probably gonna lose the round, but you don't have to worry much about being choked out. So how would have Kamaru beat him? Knock him out? I don't think his power would translate at 205. The only fighter he really knocked out at 170 was Masvidal. He didn't knock out Colby, even though he dropped him a couple times. He TKO'd Burns, but apart from that, Kamaru doesn't really have that much knockout power. So what would he have done against Jan Blachowicz? Nothing. And then he would have had his excuse that, oh, dare to be great. But no, if we pay money to watch a pay-per-view, we want a fight where we think that both fighters actually stand a chance. That's common sense. And I might create some enemies with this one, and this one is definitely a lot closer than the other fights, but still I think this would have been a terrible mismatch. Jan Blachowicz versus Jon Jones. I know when Jan Blachowicz won the belt, people started like MMA Guru, if you watch his reaction to Jan winning the belt. The first thing he said is, Jon Jones ain't shit in this division. Jon Jones never did this to anyone. But to me, this never made any sense. Jon Jones was never a knockout artist. He was never the most powerful guy, but he knew how to beat the most powerful guys. Just look at what he did to Glover Teixeira, who beat Jan Blachowicz, and he did it when Glover was actually in his prime age. Now, I don't know athletically and like fight IQ and skill wise was Glover in his prime. I don't know, because he became a champion way later in his career, but at least age wise and physicality, athleticism wise, Jon beat Glover in his prime. And as soon as it hit the deck, like it hit the ground with Jan Blachowicz, he got choked out. And you don't want to go on the ground with Jon Jones. Jon Jones is the most creative, and he has the most vicious submissions that I've seen, almost, except maybe Charles Oliveira. But look what he did to Gane. Look what he did to Lyoto. And I know those guys are a little bit smaller and less dangerous than Jan Blachowicz, but I think Jon could have easily dealt with the threat of Jan Blachowicz, took it to the ground, and did his thing. Like, this fight, for me, people talking about this fight like it's a 50-50 or that the division has passed Jon. No, I think you guys forget that Jon Jones is the #1 pound for pound. And if you put him in a room with anyone, he's the one that comes out. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to support, and see you guys soon. Bye-bye.